Hey there YouTube, it is Liranity and I wanted to do a very quick video sort of sharing my early impressions on Janthir Walls, the new Guild Wars 2 expansion. It has now been 5 days since this expansion came out and I really like it, y'all. So I kind of wanted to make a video, I guess, like gushing over it a bit. I do have a couple points of criticism, but in general I am honestly really in love with this expansion. So when you first get into Janthir Walls, the thing that really sort of blew my mind, and I think kind of the biggest thing that I like about this expansion, is the map shell. The maps look absolutely gorgeous. It feels like we are back enjoying exploration in Guild Wars 2. First time you get here, you're just kind of running around, and it feels a lot like Sodo. It's not like, oh wow, this is very similar to the previous expansion. But then like once you get out of here, there's just this massive sense of skill, right? There's like these massive rivers going around. It's really different. I think especially after Sodo, where like we were all kind of up in the sky, we were like in all these man-made structures, it feels really good to just be back in like a large open environment. It feels a lot like you're, I guess, like in like Skyrim, or like a lot of people keep mentioning Grizzly Hills from like Wrath of the Lich King. I think the big thing is I feel very immersed in these maps. Something I think is really smart in Janthir Walls is they've introduced these new hearts. Again, this was something people were quite skeptical about initially. Usually they kind of feel like you're just doing some repetitive fetch quests, but this time the hearts all have much bigger regions. So this heart, it's called like, it basically covers like this whole part of the map. And there's like lots of stuff you can do. You can help out here, you can do the stuff in the arena, you can like serve the bears food, you can like do something with the plants. But other stuff also counts towards these hearts. So like doing random events counts. Doing one of the adventures also counts. So it becomes less of a, hey, I'm doing this specific quest. And it becomes more of a like, hey, just do anything in this area of the map and fill the hearts. You can do these hearts once a day, and as you do them more and more, you can level them up to higher tiers. We don't actually know that much yet about what happens once you get them to higher tiers. But what I do know is that it makes exploring feel really good. In the past, it would be like, oh, there's an event, I don't really care. But now it's like, it's gonna fill my heart, right? It's gonna fill my heart for the day. It almost feels a bit like a reputation grind in some other game. So I've just been immersed, running around, exploring. It feels a lot like classic Guild Wars 2. But that is not to say that there are no cool epic boss fights in this expansion either. There's not really a big map-wide meta in the first map, but there's, for example, like one event, like around here, there's actually Commander, I think they're actually doing it right now, where you fight this bulk queen, and you gotta escort the bears and kill the queen and stuff. It's actually pretty badass. And there's also, in the second map, there is actually a bit of a meta event. It's a world boss though, there's not really a big event leading up to it. It's just these world bosses spawn. I really like that one too. There's a bunch of like interesting mechanics to it. It was apparently bugged the first couple days, but it's been fixed now. It's a little bit challenging, but it's not crazy challenging, but it feels satisfying when you kill it for sure. Next, let's talk about the other big highlights. Well, there's several highlights, but one of my highlights is the Warclaw. So they announced for this expansion that the Warclaw is going to get a bunch of new moves, right? It's going to be able to double jump, and everybody's kind of like, oh, I guess that's cool. I don't think anybody was expecting it to be quite this fun. It's not really a double jump, it's more of a, you can just jump a ton, especially if you get all the masteries and you get like the mount energy booster, you have like Bond of Wave, you can like bounce around. There's just like sort of like trick to it where once the paws of your Warclaw starts glowing, you like get the most height when you jump. So there's sort of like some skill to bouncing around with your kitty. But it's just really fun to do. I generally think that this might be my favorite mount in Guild Wars 2. Which is weird to think. I don't think I would ever said that about the Warclaw, right? The Warclaw before this expansion was pretty useless in PvE. It was like a World versus World mount. It didn't really do anything in PvE. But now it's got its own whole moveset, right? You can also like sniff and like find like hidden treasures. You can throw spears, which I haven't used that much, but there's this chain ability which gets used in certain events. The Warclaw is very fun. Having talked about the Warclaw, I guess that also brings us to spears. Spears were originally an underwater exclusive weapon in Guild Wars 2, but now with this expansion, the Kodan, the bears in this area, they teach you how to use it on land. And I will admit, I haven't quite tried the spears as much as I would have liked. You know, usually when they add new weapons, I like to jump to fractals and raids and do lots of instance content and see if they're good and stuff. I've just been busy playing the expansion. So I've really only been playing the Ellie Spear, but the Ellie Spear is very cool. It's maybe a little bit over the top with its animations, but it feels so good to have like a proper, like really strong ranged weapon on Elementalist. The animations feel absolutely amazing. Like, you can sort of charge up these etchings and then you can unleash the Haboop. For what I've tried of the other spears, I think it's kind of similar. I don't think they're all quite as good as the Ellie Spear. I think the Ellie Spear is a real highlight, but they feel very fresh, right? I think the weapons that were added in the previous expansion, there were some cool ones, there were some less cool ones, but there were definitely a lot of animations we had already seen in the past. But the spear, it feels like new. It's like something we've never seen in Guild Wars 2 before. And I'm so glad that it's here on day one, right? We're not sitting here like waiting like, oh, when is the spear gonna come out? We just get to run around in the new maps and do all this content while we're using the spears. And that's been very, very cool for sure. Alright, up next, another big feature of this expansion, Homesteads. We're like in the spooky lands of Janthir. I would say the first map is actually very cozy. You're just kind of hanging out with the bears. Second map is a lot more spooky. It's good vibes though. Like, reminds me a lot of like, I guess like Duskwood in like old classic WoW or something. But yeah, the folk looks so good. But besides just adventuring in the land of Janthir, you can get your own homestead, your own house. Player housing is finally available in Guild Wars 2. You get it pretty early in the story. You don't need to spend any gold or whatever. You just kind of get it. And then you can summon a doorway, which then takes you to your homestead. Here's your homestead. And you can just kind of put anything you want in there. They have upped the decoration tools, so you can be super creative and make all kinds of stuff. I actually did a whole sponsored video on decorating in homesteads, so if you're interested, go check out that one. I'll put it in like a overlay thingy above the video or something. I haven't like gotten a million decorations yet, but I've been decorating a little bit in like the first room, I guess. It's very cozy. I can feel myself getting sucked into this, right? Like sort of Animal Crossing style, where I want to like customize my living space and make it all perfect and all nice and comfy. So I already know I'm going to be spending many hours on this feature. Also, there's some cool little touches. You can see your other characters that you've logged out here. That's my guardian. Very strange seeing multiple of your characters on the screen at the same time, actually. But there's also like a mount stable. Look, if you go over here, you can find your mount skins. These are the mount skins that I'm currently using. You can pet them as well, which is literally 10 out of 10. You can also find all of your home instance notes from your old home instance. The homesteads are cool, and I am definitely like excited to mess around with it. There are a couple of things that I think they gotta improve though. There's a couple of things where I'm like, oh, this is something that they should fix. First of them, you cannot actually like see the rest of the world map from your homesteads, which I think is a bit awkward, right? Like if I'm gonna be spending lots of time here, I want to be able to teleport to Canva from my homesteads. I want to be able to like pick a map and click a waypoint and teleport over, right? But instead my world map is kind of locked in here. Also, a similar issue, there's lots of places, like for example Arborstone, where they don't let you put down the door. I'm not sure why that is. Maybe they didn't want people placing doors like everywhere. But look, I'm not allowed to put my door down here. And honestly, that's fine. I think it's fine if there's certain maps where I can't put my door. But I wish there was at least a way that lets me go to my homestead, right? Like if I'm in Arborstone and I'm like, I want to go to my homestead, I first gotta teleport here, put down the door, and then go there, right? I wish there was at least a button that would like instantly teleport me to my homestead. But yeah, homesteads are a cool feature, but just with some tiny things they could make them a little bit better. Next big thing I want to talk about with you is the story of this expansion. You know, we're up here in the north. It's quite cozy. We're getting to hang out with the Kodan, with the bears who are really cute. And the story, I think, is similarly cozy this time around. Unlike some of the previous expansions, it's less like immediate world-ending threats that we gotta like go and kill. We're just kind of on an adventure here. We're getting to like meet these Kodan, and eventually like threats do pop up, right? And like we're investigating and all that stuff. But the story definitely feels a lot slower this time around. And before you think that's bad, I actually quite like that it's slower. I think Guild Wars 2 often has kind of had the issue where they try to do a lot of story in a very short amount of time. So the story can definitely feel a little bit rushed, especially in some previous expansions. Like, for example, like Post Soda felt incredibly rushed. This time, that is not really the case. We're spending a lot of time just talking to the characters, getting to know them. Just, there's a lot of dialogue that tells us what is up with these characters. And that's good, because it allows them to really develop these characters for once, which is something that they've definitely not always been able to do in the past. It does mean that, I don't want to talk about spoilers, but the story definitely feels like it's going to continue in the patches. So instead of in Sodo, where you've sort of got a separate story for the expansion launch and then a separate story for the patches, it feels like we've kind of hit a mid-season finale, and like the story is going to continue into the patches, which I think will probably make the pacing a lot better, right? It will mean that it's less like they're trying to cram 2 stories into one expansion. There's also quite a lot of talking and world building. There's a lot of references to old lore. They actually kind of update us on what's going on in the rest of the world, which I think is really cool. Like, again, I don't want to spoil it, but it's cool. It's cool. Like, especially if you've been waiting to know, like, what's going on with this character, what's going on with this civilization. There's a lot of updates that we get. I will say, because there is more of a focus on the character development and the world building and stuff, it does mean that there's a lot of talking in the story. I really love that. I love like getting to hear what everybody was up to and stuff. But I can imagine that if you're not into the story, or if you're maybe new to the franchise, that there's a lot of talking where you're kind of like just kind of waiting for it to be over. So I do think that they probably should look into making a skip button. I don't think I would use that at all. Maybe for like story playthroughs. It would be nice for if you're trying to get achievements or something. But I do think, especially now that we're getting longer, nicer, deeper story, having the option to skip for people who want it is probably like a good addition. Oh, also, I want to give a big shout out to the side stories. There's a whole bunch of like collections, which are basically big side quests for you to do. In previous expansions, these would kind of be hidden in the achievement panel somewhere. They're still hidden in the achievement panel, but this time they got their own category. So they're a lot more visible. The ones I have done so far are really good. I did one about the White Mantle, and it was super intriguing. It was generally really well done. I've heard that there's one getting the crew together where you sort of like do a heist and stuff, and people say that they're awesome. Yeah, some people in the chat are like saying, I want more. They're really, really good. So definitely make sure you check these out. So all in all, I just feel like there's a lot of stuff to do right now, right? I'm running around. I'm still leveling up my masteries. I'm doing the hearts every day. I'm running around doing events. I'm working on the side stories and on achievements. It truly feels like Guild Wars 2 at its best. And that is why I think Janthir Walls could just end up being the best Guild Wars 2 expansion. It's hard to say right now, right? Because it's only the launch. We still got like 3 big patches coming in, right? And the first patch of that is actually going to add the raid. There's no instance content in this expansion at all right now. There's no strikes, there's no dungeons or whatever. But we are getting a raid in Fremont. I think if they manage to pull off a really good raid, that this expansion might end up genuinely being the best Guild Wars 2 expansion. But we'll have to wait and see, right? We also have to wait and see, like, how do they wrap up the story? It's a bit early, but I will say that it's a really strong start. And it's been quite a while since I've been this into just playing Guild Wars 2 and exploring and doing the adventures. Like, I spent a whole bunch of time trying to become a fish. No, I'm being a fish. Best expansion ever. There's also, there's this one adventure where you gotta like find these bears. There's like hide and seek going on with the bears. No! Wait, no! He's here! He's here! You bastard! Very excited to see what they do with the patches, right? Can they keep up this standards of quality? But it definitely feels like we're back, y'all. You know? Especially after like, I guess the community sentiment around the Sodo patches wasn't very good. It feels good to have an expansion that just has this energy, right? It feels like everybody in the community is really into it. It just feels like everybody's having a good time. And that definitely feels good, y'all. Alright, I think that's right about wraps up this little video about my first early Janthir Waltz impressions. Thank you so much for watching. Big shout out to everybody in the chat sitting through this recording session. Check out my Twitch channel if you're interested. I'll be streaming lots more Janthir Wilds. So go to twitch.tv/Nerency if you want to like tune in and join all these awesome people in the chat. And yeah, hope you enjoyed the expansion, y'all. Thank you for watching, everybody. See you next time. Woo!